This post originally appeared on Substack. In the beginning, an explanation of why I'm here, what I'm doing, and where I'm going. February 27th, 2025. My dream is to be a writer. I'd like to make about $100,000, which is roughly in line with where happiness plateaus. Also a nice round number. Although there's recent research that disputes the claim and argues happiness endlessly increases with wealth. However, I don't need a pile of money or a pile of happiness. To that end, I will eventually start offering subscriptions at $5 a month. Once I get close to 25K paid subscribers, I will reduce the subscription to $4 a month, so on and so forth. I'm not sure if I will reach 100K paid subscribers. But if I do, then y'all will be offered the subscription at $1 a month. At which point I will put energy towards using that money to make its own money, as I hear you can do. Or sell physical goods that have permanent value so that there will no longer be a subscription or a paywall. This post will be pinned to the top of my feed forever as a manifesto. Editor's note on 2/28/25. I'm truly terrible with math. I don't even know what all the buttons on a calculator do anymore. I meant the 100K number as yearly and started doing math as if subscriptions were also yearly. I posted a comment expounding. The comment that expounds. I need to clarify the first paragraph. To be clear, my dream is to be a writer, which obviously involves being utterly terrible at math. I intend to make 100K per year. Substack subscriptions are monthly, which means all of my numbers are wrong. I'm not going to do the math now. Actually, maybe I should. Let me ask an AI for help. Is it really possible to make 100K a year by having 1,660 subscribers pay $5 a month? Doing math made my goal way more feasible. That was cool. Maybe I should spend more time doing math. But not tonight. The point of all this is, I don't want to get wealthy by writing. I just want enough wealth to write. I want as many people to read as want to, which is why I will be lowering the price as my platform grows. Returning to the text. Remember, my dream is to be a writer. My dream is not to be wealthy. These are different, though often confused. Part of being involves a piece of property that you maintain, a family that you grow with, and the obligations to the state and others in the forms of taxes and bills. This last point could and has been disputed. In my senior year of high school, I had bought an enormous red backpacking pack and carried all my school textbooks in it. When asked what was going on, I answered variously. I'm going to Iraq to document the war. I am not going to college. I want to really live. At the time, I was highly engaged in church and reading the Bible. I was convinced there was another way to live in the world. I was made of fire which sat ablaze atop my ginger head. My father convinced me through a long act of silence that this was foolish. It was the summer after high school and I had no plans for college. The only plan I had was to show up to work at the church I attended and get paid to clean toilets, and move tables/chairs. My coworker, who was the son of a staff member, said he was trying to find a roommate for college at UW-Madison, and I said he could count on me. A month later, he told me that unfortunately he had changed his plans and would now be attending UW-Whitewater to be alongside his girlfriend. A minute later, I told him that fortunately, I was his roommate and I was coming along. 6 months into college, they broke up. 6 months after that, he transferred to UW-Milwaukee and left me alone in the middle of a cornfield. 2 years later, I dropped out, though I would return again later in life only to drop out a second time. The third time was the charm, and I graduated from UW-Milwaukee. Perhaps I should have followed that old friend, who was briefly known as the Wizard of the Ghetto due to his proclivity of riding his moped with the bathrobe flapping in the wind. It's hard to say when the fire went dry. I stopped going to church at age 25 when, after being hired at a large church with the promise of being given the opportunity to preach, writing in motion, I somewhat suddenly quit with a harebrained scheme. I drove west with a friend to live out of our cars in Los Angeles, searching the wreckage for sparks from fallen stars. I wandered. As a substitute teacher at an Orthodox Jewish school in West Hollywood. As a projectionist at a ritzy movie theater where the reel spins in time with Santa Monica's wheel. As a hotel night clerk outside Chicago. As a man who laid flooring and built the place the deer would travel on. As an overnight snow shoveler, clearing the way for sick patients. As an engineer, designing parking lot PDFs to pour asphalt precisely within ADA pronouncements. As a cardboard box folder and screw counter, sealing dowsing rods for cancerous tumors. As the deeply loved and profusely hated brewery manager who was always willing to listen, dependent upon length of queue. But sometimes fire sits dormant. Sometimes you don't have to start the fire. Sometimes the fire starts you. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. T.S. Eliot, from Little Gidding, 4 Quartets, 1943. This quote is towards the end of Little Gidding, but it's not the end. The piece is long, and this fragment comes from the 5th and final section. Little Gidding itself is the 4th quartet and part of an even longer 4-part cycle, which is to say that I am using this quote out of context. Do you have any idea how much effort it would take to put this quote in context? Do you have any idea how many references, how many allusions are made? And what if you found them all and compiled a list? How long would it take to understand that? At least now you have an idea of what I'm after. Whether we like it or not, there are foundational texts that human knowledge is built on. This is how it works in every field that I have personal experience of. I am quite open to changing my mind, but I'm not sure how anything moves forward without some level of agreement. Certainly, these texts differ from culture to culture. They are one of a multitude of creative acts that make cultures different. But what if you no longer speak the language of your textual heritage? What if you couldn't even pronounce the words of your ancestral line? What if the only way to learn was to sacrifice your financial freedom? What if you were forced into esoteric specificity without a foundation of applied generality? What if when you got to that place of learning, no one even believed anything they were saying? These are the ghosts I went off chasing into the night at the age of 25. It was a great chase, a wild hunt, and a marvelous disaster. It was 10 years of meeting new tribes, but I was far too wary of overly complex treaties that bound me to war with foes I'd never met to ever swear allegiance. I once believed in God, the Bible, Jesus, and the church. with great vigor. I abandoned them with an equal vigor, like much of my generation. I remember the feeling, but not the day. It started as a wardrobe, a new land, and a satyr standing tall. It ended with a trapdoor free fall onto a great desert populated with wild screech owls. I turned 33 last month, the same supposed age Jesus the Christ was when he died. Even as an apostate, I wonder what mischief he'd get up to if he was born today. I wonder what temple tables he'd have his eye on, waiting for the right day of the year to cause a scene. As a former megachurch janitor, I know quite a few things about flipping temple tables. In fact, it's the fastest way to fold them, put them on a cart, and take them to a closet where they belong, beside skeletons who speak in different tongues. This won't be easy. I won't be easy. I will do my best to be fair, and I am sure that I will fail at that. But I am today more like that 18-year-old kid who was convinced something strange was happening in Iraq in 2010, who was feeling like the foundational myths he was handed weren't holding weight anymore, and who just wanted to really live. Isn't that why we're here? Is it too much to ask? I'm done asking, but that doesn't mean I'm out to tell or show or prove. I'm going to live as full as I can figure out, and I'm going to do my very damnedest to avoid the piles of wealth, greed, and the piles of happiness, hedonism, and the overly complex treaties that bind us to war with foes we've never met and who might just be allies. Dogmatic ideology. In service of the belief that there is another way of life. At the point where I find the right cadence here, I'll turn on subscriptions and have to figure out what to paywall, unless I can figure out another way. At the end of every month on Instagram, I'll be posting one photo and one thought. On X, I'm slowly Xing a novel. So this space will be more concrete, at least as concrete as I can get. I was always an asphalt man at heart. Thank you, whoever you are. I'll see you in the wilds, the forests, the rivers, the mountains, the comments, the streams, and the subcommontaneous threads of time. It has always been my dream to be a writer. I hope it is your dream to be more than a reader, more than an audience, more than a viewer, more than a herd, more than a consumer. The world only changes if we change. So let's get ruddy. And if I ever end a post asking you to buy merch, I beg of you, I beg of you, I beg of you, I beg of you to find out where I am actually and get somebody to kick my shins in. May the fires blaze atop your skulls. Amen. P.S. The next post will focus on my firebrand. I refuse to use the word brand in the modern context. What's the deal with pattern by design? What's all the hubbub about design patterns? All this and more coming to a digital device near you. Probably too near you, actually. Maybe put it down for a while. Maybe touch grass. But not in a demeaning way. More of like in a, I got a hippie aunt who says grass plus bare feet equals no anxiety kind of way. I'm going to stop now and take my dog on a walk through the forest. I'll be wearing boots. PPS, the YouTube special. Reading something you wrote, even recently, is a particularly painful experience. Ta-ta for now.